my grandfather did not come directly to Chicago. He came by ship all alone when he was 13 years old. His father had passed away. He sold water in Russia, and he made enough money to make passage when he was 13, came over to the United States when he was 13, 14, and started working in the foundries in New Britain, Connecticut.
Hello, Assyrian podcast family. John here in Chicago, welcoming you to episode 137 with our guest Warren Shabaz. We've had the distinct privilege as host of this podcast to speak with Assyrians from so many generations, living in so many different places. Their paths all different and their connection to the community on different levels. In October 2020, I had the pleasure of speaking to Warren Shabaz. It's possible that even if you live in or have visited the United States, you may not have heard his name, but you just may have devoured one of his creations. That creation is none other than the Chicago icon, the Pizza Puff. Warren details his immigrant grandfather, Elisha Shabaz, starting a tamale and hot dog cart in the 1920s Chicago, Warren's own entry into the family business, the idea and execution of the Pizza Puff, and what the future holds for his company and the Pizza Puff line. I have to admit some bias on my part here. I'm throwing my hands up. I love the Pizza Puff, okay? I told Warren that in our conversation. So a couple of years ago when I found out that the creator of this delicious snack was Assyrian, I knew I had to eventually track him down and talk about it. In this episode, you'll hear of an idyllic experience of the American dream by an Assyrian named Elisha Shabaz who came here from Iran via Russia, spoke 4 languages, built a food empire, probably without even realizing it, and how that man's grandson Warren, using the same powerful self-belief and strong work ethic, expanded that empire into what it is today. Warren and I talked a lot about his contribution to food, his career trajectory, what it was like in the old days of Chicago, and what the future holds for his company, Iltaco, being the second generation of Assyrian to be born in the United States, and subsequently wrapped up in carrying on the American dream and family business. I was impressed with Warren's memories of his Assyrian upbringing, yet also reminded of the duty most of us feel to not just remember, but write down, record, and pass on for future generations of Assyrians and diaspora. A quick, friendly reminder to subscribe to the Assyrian Podcast wherever podcasts can be found, and to please rate and review the podcast. That helps us out a ton. This episode is sponsored by the Oshana Partners, a husband and wife real estate team. Are you considering purchasing or selling a home in Arizona or California? John and Rita are available to help make your next real estate decision into a seamless transaction. Contact the Oshanas at 209-968-9519. Get to know them a bit more by checking out their website, theoshanapartners.com. The Assyrian Podcast is also brought to you by Tony Kalogerakos and the Injury Lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that has been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakos. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or 847-982-9516. And now, without further ado, Mr. Warren Shabaz. Things I wanted to ask you, Warren, really quick, because I know, especially as a multi-generation American, I've heard your last name pronounced 2 different ways, Shabaz and Shabaz. What way do you say it?
The way my grandfather pronounced it was like the Z was like an S, Shabaz.
Shabaz, interesting.
Yes.
And is that how you say it as well?
Yeah, I call, or if I'm talking to a potential buyer, I'll say Warren Shabaz is here.
Warren Shabaz, that's so interesting because I know I've heard it the 2 ways that I mentioned, but I've never heard it say Shabaz before. But that does make sense.
Well, John, when I was in the military, they destroyed my name.
So, Warren, you're the current head of Iltaco, short for the Illinois Tamale Company, which was effectively founded in 1927 by your grandfather, Elisha Shabaz. Was he the
Correct.
first member of the Shabaz family to immigrate to the U.S., or was he born here as well?
Now, he was the first one to immigrate here.
Excellent. And do you know where he's originally from?
He originally came from the mountains of Iran, and he went over the mountains with his father into Russia, because at that time, Russia was still Orthodox, Russian Orthodox.
Right.
And our people followed two faiths. They were either Catholic or Orthodox.
And do you know if the family had been in the mountains of Iran for quite some time before that?
Oh, yes, forever, forever. I don't know the length of time, but his father before him, his father. So let's say they were there at least 300 to 400 years.
Wow. That is incredible. So growing up, it's kind of an interesting time for you with 1950s Chicago. What are some childhood memories that stick out about your grandparents or your immediate family? What was life like all around in the 1950s?
In the 1950s, everything was slow and easy. My grandfather, like you said, opened it up in 1927. His sons were working for him, and they were making tamales at the time. And they had hot dog carts, and other gentlemen had hot dog carts. My grandfather was a very good carpenter. He also knew how to TIG weld, and he would build the carts. And the reason why they call them buggies, he would get baby buggies that were just the wheels were left on them, and he'd build these frames on them and build carts so they could sell their hot dogs and their tamales.
That is fantastic. I never knew that. And the way they've evolved, I would have never guessed that they came from baby buggies. That is interesting, though. So why tamales specifically at that time versus tamales and hot dogs, I suppose, but why tamales exactly?
Well, tamales at that time was a cheap way to fill a tummy filler. Okay,
Right.
it would cost them a cent, cent and a half to make at that time, beef tamales, and then in the carts they'd sell them for 5 to 6 cents. You could get two for a dime.
Wow.
And they were 4 ounces. So if you had 8 ounces worth of food in your belly, that would usually be sufficient. And if you bought a hot dog, that would cost you another dime. So, and a hot dog would be anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces. So you have 14 to 15 ounces worth of food in your stomach.
It's a pretty good deal even by today's standards.
Yeah, I would say so. You get filled up for 20 cents. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'll take a hot dog for a dime nowadays. I'll tell you that much. Inflation's a heck of a thing. Where did the Shabaz family live at the time?
We all resided at 646 North Sawyer Avenue in Chicago. And I went to Samuel B. Morris Grammar School, which was 4 doors down. Everything was close to everything. Even going to work, you took one bus, Chicago Avenue bus, down to Orleans in Chicago. You walked 50 feet, and you were at the company.
There you go. And
Yep.
were you taught how to speak Assyrian at all in the house, or did you know any other Assyrians? What was your relationship like with the community?
I grew up in an all-Italian neighborhood. We were the only Assyrians in that area, in that vicinity.
Wow.
My next door neighbor was Armenian, and the other side, I believe they were German. So,
were both of your parents Assyrian, not just your dad?
yes, both my parents, Francis and Eddie, were both Assyrian.
So were they raised to be Assyrian as well, or was assimilation pretty quick to take place with them as well too?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. They spoke the language. My grandmother and grandfather taught me the language. I still have friends that are Assyrian that came here just like my grandfather did. But I would only see them at church. My grandpa used to take me to church.
Do you
And
remember which one he used to take you to?
yeah, Carter Memorial. It was on Pensacola and Clark. We take two buses there. The Chicago Avenue bus to Clark, and we take Clark Street up.
I'm very familiar with the Clark Street bus, so that's excellent.
Yeah.
Do you recall any Assyrian cuisine that your family had made that you were a big fan of?
Oh yeah, the dolmas were big. The dolmas were unbelievable. The kebabs were very good, but they used to wrap them in grape leaves, or they would slice into a tomato, stuff a tomato, cucumbers, big yellow peppers, and then we called another one called dolma chalama, which was done with cabbage leaves. They cooked the cabbage down, and they would wrap it in the cabbage also.
It's unfortunate that dolma did not translate to a natural cart food. Otherwise, the family business could have taken a different spin in the 1920s.
Yeah, it could have, but the transfer, it would be very tedious to wrap them because they're all about 1 inch by 3/4 inch. And a lot of the times the leaves would break, so you had to be very careful. Yeah, the foods were great. The kebabs, my grandfather would always cook lamb, beef, chicken kebabs, you know. It was an interesting time.
I've been told that wrapping grape leaves is somewhat of an art form, and that not everybody can do it. And it actually sort of has a relation to pizza puffs, which we will get into a little bit later, because there's wrapping involved in that too. And I don't know if people realize that, but we will dive into that in just a minute. You were
Sure.
actually, roughly 9 years old when you started working in the family business? It was about, 15 years after your father, Edward, got his start. What was that like? Did they have you sweeping floors, or were you more involved in the day-to-day process?
I was with the day-to-day wrapping the tamales. We used parchment paper. We used to use corn shuck,
Oh, wow.
but then they weren't coming in very clean. There would still be dirt on them a little bit. So my grandfather thought, you know what, we'll go to a parchment paper. And we started wrapping on parchment paper. And we would tuck them in, twist it at the ends, and tuck it in with our thumbs. Or to make sure they were absolutely secure from the water, sometimes they would be thrown in water, not just steam tables, okay? And we would tie them with little ties of string on each end, like bows. Yeah.
And then how did your role evolve there? What was your next job after helping wrap the tamales?
Well, my father went into the restaurant business. My uncle was still delivering, and my grandfather started showing me how to actually cook the tamales, the right proportions of spices to go in there, the fats, the water. He'd had them marked off, these big stainless steel tubs, and we would use like almost an oar to mix it with. We didn't have mixers back then, big hollow mixers or anything of that nature. So it was an actual oar that you would mix it, and there was a real way to mix it, so you wouldn't have any dry spots with corn in one spot and just too much filling in another. So that's how and he taught me how to do the cooking. I think I stepped up to the plate about 14 years old, 13, 14, because I was pretty tall by then. He knew I could at least stand on the stool there and mix it from there.
That's fascinating to me because I always get these images of food being made, of it being very assembly line like and made to get out of there pretty quickly, that my brain doesn't even wrap around the idea of this old school way of doing it with stirring it with an oar and everything. Is it night and day now compared to how food is made in 2020 versus back then?
Yeah. The cooking back then, one vat, we make one vat of each. The inside, which was red, made with chili and other spices. The exterior was yellow cornmeal. And we had like an old sausage stuffer that was converted. It had two tubes coming down, and there'd be weights pressing down on this and be extruded out the mouth of this sausage maker. One would coincide into the other. The chili would be extruded on the interior with a smaller cone, and the outside was a larger cone, and it would be pressed. It was tapered perfectly so they would come together.
I love that you have such a vivid memory of how the process works. And I wanted to mention one other thing that I found for all of our listeners. The Iltaco website has a very awesome sort of family timeline that you go through from the beginning of the company. And it incorporates not only family events, but Chicago sporting events and anything else that happened around the same time. And it also adds that you were, at the time when you first started at the company, you were only one of 4 employees. And there's a gentleman by the name of Pete the Armenian listed as one of the employees. I have to scratch my curiosity itch here. What is the story behind Pete the Armenian?
My grandfather spoke several languages. He spoke Russian, he spoke Assyrian, he spoke Armenian, and he spoke English. Pete was a gentleman that came by one day. I think I was like 8 or 9 years old, and he asked the job from my grandfather. And my grandfather saw the business getting a little bit bigger, and he lost the use of my grandmother. My grandmother had gone blind. And he needed another person to cover it with me. So Pete stepped up. Pete, when he came to work for us, at that time, he was 74, 75 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And he stayed with me for the next 15 years.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Is there still a connection with Pete's family at all?
No, Pete came here all alone.
Wow.
For Armenia. He was all alone. He was totally all alone, But my grandfather would invite him to the house. My grandfather was a very giving person, very giving. And he would invite Pete and a few other guys that lived in the same housing place he did. Every Thanksgiving, they'd come all dressed up with their ties on, sit there, and they'd have shots of whiskey with my grandfather, and they would go home, and they were very thankful. My grandfather didn't like to see anybody alone on Thanksgiving. He just didn't like it, But he was a very giving man, very giving.
You mentioned Pete coming here by himself. Your grandfather obviously immigrated to Chicago as well. Was it something specifically about Chicago versus New York or Cleveland or any of the other places that had, at the time, a high population and work?
Yeah, actually, my grandfather did not come directly to Chicago. He came by ship all alone when he was 13 years old. His father had passed away. He sold water in Russia, and he made enough money to make passage when he was 13, came over to the United States when he was 13, 14, and started working in the foundries in New Britain, Connecticut. A lot of people don't know it, but New Britain most of it was foundries and steel processing, and he didn't get here until he was like 18, 19. He had an injury on one of the bridges in New York that it took him a while to recover. And then he found out he had a sister here. She tried locating him, and he came to Chicago. And believe it or not, by 21 years old, he opened up a bakery. And he used to make hot dog buns.
I don't know if you know, but was it fairly simple to just open up a business like a bakery at that time? It seems like today you have to go through a lot of red tape and have a lot of capital saved up just to start up a business. Was it fairly simple at the time? Did he ever tell you that?
Yeah, yeah. You didn't. There was no FDA, USDA,
Right.
or anything like that. You rented a space for maybe $2 a week or $3 a week, and rents at that time were 5 and up to $15 a month. You know what I mean? And yeah, he was able to. Yeah, it was fairly easy to get into the business.
And it seems like a lot of that work ethic, a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit, that certainly passed down to you. By 1964, you take over management of the business, and the decision was made to shorten the name from the Illinois Tamale Company simply to Iltaco. Was this a trend in the 60s to have cleaner, shorter brand names, or were you ahead of the curve on this decision?
I think we were ahead of the curve then. We just thought it was a catcher name, Del Taco. It kind of blended itself at that time when we were just doing tamales, like we were Hispanic or whatever,
Sure.
and it made it easier. We were going to go ITC Corporation, ITC Foods, but we didn't really care for that, so
Sure.
we called it Old Taco.
About a year later, you get drafted into the military. You end up serving roughly 5 years in the U.S. Navy. At that time, was that frightening at all for you or for your family members, particularly, your mother, or was that something that you took a lot of pride in?
I took a lot of pride in that. I really did. I was in from 65, actually, 65 through 69. I had to stay one more year in the reserves. Well, you can call that still the military.
Sure.
And I had to, what I learned in the Navy, I had to teach other guys up at Great Lakes and Pensacola, Florida.
And then the 70s, I mean, we're talking right after your service. That was a huge time for you. You resume management of the company, you get married, you move the location of the business, which I believe the website mentions where the business is now. Where did it move from?
It moved from 806 North Orleans. We wanted to be closer to the house so we could just walk to work. And we opened up about, I believe it was about 3,300 on Chicago Avenue. So within 10 minutes walking, I'd be at work.
That's
It was
everybody's
actually
ideal
33,
situation.
37 West Chicago Avenue. I just clicked in my head.
That's wonderful. So you move the business within walking distance. That's everybody's ideal situation, being able to walk to their own company. You and your wife have your first child, your daughter Alicia. This is right around the time you hatch your idea for the iconic original Pizza Puff. What led you to this creation? Was it a customer request or just a light bulb going off?
It was a customer request. It's so funny you mentioned that.
Hmm.
Growing up in an all Italian neighborhood, calzones and panzerottis, we used to have these feasts, Italian feasts in the neighborhood. They bring in rides right in the middle of the street. We'd close it off. They'd have a roller coaster, the whip, and a few other things. And the food, they'd have clams, oysters, and calzones and pizza. And any guy that would put up the permit money could open up, on the
Nice.
street. And from that, having that background, and all my dad's friends were Italian, my grandfather's friends were Italian, a lot of them were in the grocery store business. But what really got it going was it was a customer, like you mentioned. I walked in there. It's funny to me now that I think of it. Here's this guy playing around with pizza dough, and he puts the sausage and the cheese and the sausage, and he throws in the French fryer, and the thing dissipates, and now his grease is filthy. And I'm looking at this guy and said, "What was that?" He goes, Well, I don't have the room to bring in a big oven like the pizza guy down the street. Most of the hot dog stands were 400 to 500 square feet. You stood outside, he slides a window open, you give your order, and they didn't have room for an oven. So I'm thinking about this guy that I know. He owns Azteca Corn Products. His father started it a long time ago. And on the south side there, in a little village, they were starting up, selling white burrito bread, and they were making taco shells. And I knew he was starting to make burritos, and I said, if this guy can throw a burrito in a French fryer or in a skillet with a little grease in it, and nothing happens to it, I got to go over and talk to this guy. So I go over and talk to him. We became friends. We're still friends today. And can you sell me these shells? He goes, no problem. So I picked up about, 10 dozen. I brought it back here. We're practicing with it. I throw it in a French fryer. All it was a tub with grease in it. And threw it in there, and it came out nice. So now we had to work on the interior to make it really taste really good with a lot of flavor, with a lot of seasonings. So if you know how Italian sausage is made, there's fennel in it, there's black pepper in it. And so we start putting little pots together, like we'd make up 7 or 8 that day and see which one tasted better. And finally we settled on this formula. We started doing it, and I looked over at one of the guys that I had hired, and I said, if I could just sell 50 cases of pizza puffs a week, we're going to be rich, So I started taking samples out to all the hot dog stand guys. I said, Warren, this is fabulous, fabulous. And that's how it began.
And you mentioned making about 7 or 8 different versions, if I heard you correctly. Did you say that was all in one day, or was that over the course of a year or more?
No. I was making samples.
Samples, got it. Okay.
In these little pots, like a 2-quart pot, and we mix it up, and we'd eat a little bit of it. We'd say, no, that one's too salty. This one's good. Then we settled on one, and that's the one we stayed with. We didn't make other flavors until later on.
Of course.
But the pizza puff is still the same way it was from back then.
And I'm not telling you this just because I'm interviewing you. I've loved pizza puffs from when I believe I was 6 or 7 the first time I ever had one. And I'm going to, as long as nothing changes with them, I'm going to love pizza puffs until the day I die. So I have a hard time describing. No, you're the wonderful man for inventing pizza puffs. I have a hard time describing to people why I love pizza puffs so much, because it's got all these different flavors to it. It's got a different character. It's got a perfect consistency to it. What, in your words, makes a pizza puff so delicious?
I think it's the bread. I think it's Chicago. It's iconic to Chicago. You know what I mean? The taste buds of Chicago are in that product.
Like you mentioned, you lived in an all-Italian neighborhood, so obviously you took a lot of inspiration from their cuisine. Is there a little, and you mentioned Azteca with the shells and everything, so it's almost sort of a hybrid Mexican-Italian type of creation. Was there anything else that went into that too, or was it primarily those two serving as the backbone of a pizza puff?
That was the backbone of the pizza puff. Now you brought that up. I remember we built this up, and I had these big styrofoam containers, and I would go down to Azteca and put them in there, the flour tortillas. And finally, Art said to me, "Why are you doing this? You come down here at 3:00 in the morning to open up by 6. Isn't this a lot of work?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You know what you're going to do? Buy your own tortilla press." It was so funny. He says, "Why are you coming down here spending all this money with it when you can make it for maybe 10% or 12% what I'm charging you?" So we started making our own tortillas here.
What's a hidden gem in the El Taco lineup that more people should try? I don't think a lot of people understand that there's so much more than just pizza puffs in the lineup.
Uh, there's about 16 flavors now. The ham and cheese has taken off. The pepperoni has taken off. The taco flavored one has taken off. The kids came up with a formula with what's the other one, Alicia? The ones that you did.
Euro puff, Reuben puff.
A Euro puff, a Reuben puff.
See, those two are new to me. I haven't even begun to try those yet. I don't know if I have to go find a restaurant that serves those, or I have to get my hands on those because those are two of my favorite foods mixed into a pizza puff. So it's natural. I have to give those a shot as well.
Right. I mean, there's some of the people didn't want meat in their products too. So
Sure.
we came up with a spinach pizza puff, and we came up with a 4-cheese pizza puff, and then ethnic wise, we came up with a beef pizza puff also, and that went over well too.
You mentioned a lot of the later flavors taking off. Where does the original rank as far as sales goes and popularity? Is that still right up there?
Yes, it's still running about number one. Still running number one. I believe pepperoni is right behind it, because once you leave Chicago, a lot of people don't understand Chicago. One time we used to have cattle on the south side. There was actual cowboys on the south side. And we were the hog capital of the world at one time. And they bring hogs in there. So it was quite available. Beef and pork was very available.
And without giving away any secrets, of course, I'm not looking for insider information here. Can you give us any info at all on future Il Taco releases? Maybe new pizza puff flavors or brand new foods altogether?
Well, what came along was our breakfast puffs started coming on. The kids created a bacon and cheese breakfast burrito. They came up with a ham and cheese breakfast, a sausage and cheese, a ham and cheese, and just sausage and cheese.
And at this point, all of your children work in the family business. Last year, according to the timeline on the website, the 5th generation of Shabaz has got a small dose of what it's all about, with little Alex doing a bit of training. In an ideal world, do you hope that Il Taco remains family owned and operated forever? Or is there a part of you somewhere that hopes at some point a descendant can cash in big and carve out their own path like your grandfather did almost a century ago?
I'm hoping. I know my children will carry it on. They're doing a fabulous job now. Alicia, Andrew, and Adam. They know how to dig into this. They've worked every part of the company. They've delivered, so they know every aspect of the business. And hopefully it goes on. I would hate to see it ever be sold. The one thing about this, everybody has to understand, people have to eat, and you're never going to lose your business. I've seen the stock market get decimated. This COVID has destroyed a lot of companies, a lot of restaurants out there. It's closed up hotels. But the one thing that has been consistent, as my grandpa always told me, don't ever let go of the golden goose. Never, ever let it go. You will make money your whole life. Just work hard and keep it going. So I'm hoping they do. I hope they do. I hope Alex and even we have a new addition called Lenny Lou. That's her name. She's a darling. She's 1 year and 3 weeks old now. I'm hoping they all can enjoy this, what we've enjoyed.
That would be lovely. You mentioned your relationship with the Assyrians. You still have a couple of friends who are Assyrian. What is your kids' relationship like with Assyrians? Do they have Assyrian friends or people that they keep in touch with?
It's amazing that you said that too. we moved up to Wilmette because I wanted the kids to get a good education. And in school, there were a few. Some of their parents, some were doctors, some were dentists. One of them, you probably know him too. In fact, he called me yesterday. He wanted to get together for lunch. He called me, and yeah, they know them. We visit some of their places that they've opened up restaurants, and we keep that alive. We try to keep it alive, that they don't forget their heritage, and they know there's other Assyrians in this town, and that it's good to keep it up.
And lastly, but certainly not least, are the Shabaz family a Cubs or a White Sox family, or do we have some split loyalties in that house?
We're split.
What are you? Are you a Cubs guy or a White Sox?
Quite a conversation when the games go on. Yeah, we're split on that.
And I noticed that this year there's a sponsorship with the Chicago Fire, who I'm a bit biased towards soccer. I'm a huge fan, season ticket holder once upon a time before the work schedule got too hectic. But how did that work out? Reaching out to them, or did they reach out to you?
They did. They reached out to us, and as we both know, soccer has become very, very popular. And when he asked me to step up, I said, you know what? It was time for my children to get involved with these type of things, the advertising end, and how we could build a relationship with a soccer team or any team, any pro sports. And they did a fabulous job. My children got in there. They became friends. I met the owner of the team, of their corporation, and their manager, and we're in with them now.
And I'll tell you what, if I ever see original Pizza Puff or Iltaco displayed across the front of a soccer jersey, that's going to be a day one purchase for me.
Okay, that's terrific.
hint there. And Warren, we always end things by giving our guests an open mic. If you have anything to say to our global audience, some words of wisdom, encouragement, funny joke or anecdote, the mic is all yours, sir.
Okay. All I can say is just work hard, have a clean life, just have a good work ethic, and you will survive. You will survive. I know right now it's not a good time, but it'll all come roaring back. It will. That's Chicago. That's the United States. And I believe in the United States. It's a wonderful, wonderful country. It allows everybody an opportunity, everyone. So grab a hold of what your dream is and make it true. Make it real. That's what I have to say.
Warren, I'd like to thank you for 3 different things. I want to thank you for your service, not just in the military, but your addition to the culinary world in the original Pizza Puff. I now consider that an Assyrian food, by the way. I tell all my friends, yeah, that the Pizza Puff is Assyrian. It might have ingredients that you're familiar with, but it's definitely an Assyrian-generated pastry. So you could thank us for that one. You could thank Warren for that one. And also, I want to thank you for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure. John, I wish you the best. I wish you the best, my friend.
To you as well, Warren. Thank you so much, sir.